Hey guys, I'm Łukasz. I'm here from Instapage. At the beginning, I will tell you a few words about me, and then we'll start the proper presentation. Okay, it's about me. I'm a programmer, I think, for like 15 years. I started with PHP and gone through a lot of languages, but right now my stack is Node.js and Angular with the new version. Besides that, I'm a fan of Real Madrid since I think I'm 8. My first T-shirt was with Morientes. I don't know if anybody remembers still him. But besides of that, I love traveling, I think like everybody. And now we'll go back to the presentation because not to bore you a lot. So what I want you to learn today is the first is what is RxJS, what is reacting functional programming, what problems that is solved and why it was invented, and that at some end, if we really need to use it. Okay, I have one question for you all. Does anyone using RxJS right now, every day? Does anyone never used it or never heard about it? Okay, so you are shy, I think. So I will give you some smooth introduction to RxJS. It was invented like 9 years ago, so it's nothing new. The last 3 versions was developed by Ben Lesh at Netflix, and the whole platform of the Netflix is designed with RxJS. Right now, Ben Lesh moved to Angular team to develop the RxJS strictly for the Angular, so it will be supported for a really long time. And for me, it's like new look for the asynchronous operations in JavaScript. And at the beginning, for you guys who do not know RxJS, I will give you a 2-minute introduction to RxJS by Anders Salz. It's really simple. I think everybody of you knows how array works. So we have this immutable array, and we want to like filter out all the odd numbers. So we'll do something like filter, and we have the new array. I will tell you that reactive streams or observables are really similar to that, because if you look at that example about it's the stream of the mouse movements, and still if you want to like filter out all the elements that are less than 250, we still use the filter, and you get the new stream of the data. What is the difference between arrays and observables then? I think the main difference is that the array is not changing in time, but observable is. Observable is like a Lodash. I think that you know this tool. And you have that all operations on operators of Lodash in the RxJS, and you can use it on the reactive streams. And the end is, of course, what I said at the beginning. The streams are changing in time. And what it starts for me, it's why we're talking about async in JavaScript, because the engine is single-threaded, but still the I/O is not non-blocking. The engineers of the V8 engine developed something called the event loop. Does everyone knows how event loop works, or should I explain it to you? All right, so I will explain it to you. Sorry, it's a bit blurry maybe, but we have the stack, where we have the functions stack where they're executed in the like in the queue, and then if the async operations happens, we have the web API, for example, for Ajax, that takes the callback for the async operations to the callback queue, and there with the free spot on the stack, this operation is executed. So this gives us non-blocking I/O in the async operations in the JavaScript. But it all started for me with the callback hell when I was developing the Node.js application like a few years ago. I think everybody of us knows what is the pain to read the code like that when you do not know what functions is executing what functions, and it's really, really weird word for that. But eventually, someone came up with the promises. So I will describe you what are the features of the promises, and then we go to compare it to the observables. Like the first thing is that promise takes a single value, and you cannot change that value in the future. The second thing is that they're using the semantics with the chain and the success and error callbacks, so it's pretty same like the callbacks. They are not lazy. What does mean? Not lazy that when you create the promise, it's already going to be resolved. You cannot stop it. And the last thing, they are immutable, but you cannot cancel it. So if you like trigger the promise, it must be resolved. You cannot cancel any XR action on it. And you can run one promise only once. You cannot retry on the promise. And what is the difference with the observable streams? That at the beginning there are the streams. Then they can take any numbers of things, elements. Besides, when promises take only one, you can like add new elements to the stream all the time. They are lazy, so when you create the observable, until you subscribe to them, they are not doing anything. They are not taking any events, so you can manipulate and choose the moment when you want to take the events from the observable. At some end, they are cancelable. You can cancel observable at any time by using the unsubscribe, so you can delete it and don't care about what is happening in the future or about your RAM. So let's do some, when I'm talking about the async, I took some main async events from the browser. The first one is DOM events. So for example, mouse movement, as you saw before, if you think about mouse movement and the promise, okay, the promise take only one value, mouse movements are the stream, so I don't really see how the mouse movement will work with the promise. The animations, okay, animation can take one value, but you can cancel animation. So still, promise, you cannot cancel the promise, so not still right for me. WebSocket, again, is a stream of events in time, so still you cannot use promise for that. External controllers, some path or phone or connection with Bluetooth, still you have the, for example, the gyroscope with the movement, so it's still the stream of the events. And last but not least, the thing we are using the most in our applications is the Ajax. So with the Ajax, as you can see, it takes one value. So eventually you have something which fits promise really well, but this does really fit the promises? Because right now we've talked about the single-page applications, you can come to the conclusion that promise is not really good for it because you cannot cancel it. Let's imagine the application when you have one page with loading some big data, taking like 3-4 seconds, but in the moment the user is loading its data, he clicks to next page. Okay, I don't want this data anymore. Why should I keep a XHR request going on? I should cancel it and load the new data and skip this part. So with promises, you cannot do that. So if you look for the all async operation in the browser, you come to the conclusion, it was like a big joke when I come to it, because I was thinking, okay, I was learning the promises really good, we should use the promises, but still, you can do something better. But is that the joke? I think it's not the joke. It's only the revolution or evolution in the programming and the web applications, because a few years ago, we are not calling them web applications, but web pages. And you have like the PHP reloading the state of the application on every site. You do not have to handle a lot of async operations, a lot of data inside the application. So I think that the promises came with the need of developers to handle the stream of the events really nice. And I will give you some comparison about the semantics, how the semantics for the promises and semantics for the observables look like. The first one is the then. As you can see, it's take the success callback at the first and the error callback at the end. It's pretty same with the observables, but as you can see, it's called a bit different, but the callbacks, the first two callbacks are the same, but the last one, complete callback, is the callback when you unsubscribe. So when you complete the async operation, you destroy your stream, you can still do some actions on the destroying of the stream. So it's the main difference between the promises and observable syntax in here. I think that everybody of you saw how to create the promises. At this time, a lot of libs have the promises already implemented, so we are not doing it a lot. But it has like two functions, resolve and reject. If you have the error, you reject the promise. If you do not have an error, it's successful, you resolve it. It's pretty similar in the observables too, because you create the new observable. As you can see, you do not have the callbacks like resolve and reject, but it has the observer who takes the same situations. If you have the error, you inform the observer that there is an error. But if you want to pass the new value, you use the next function, because as I told you before, observables can take multiple values. So I can use the next function like 10 times in here in the loop, and there will be coming events to this observable. And at the end, I can complete it and make the stream ended. Okay, going next. But as we always want, we don't really want to write a whole operation creator for every event, of every variable, of every URI. So the RxJS comes with the helpers. We can create the observable of any value, can be int, a string, on anything so you imagine, like, and its JavaScript value. You can create observable from promises, iterables, and observables too. So if you have already promise implemented in the application, you can easily take the promise and make it observable. And what is really nice, we can create observable from every event from the browser. So like mouse movements, mouse clicks, and everything is supported by the browser. So going next, observables are nice, but what is like the power for me of the RxJS and the observables is the operators, because the operators allow to compose the few streams and manipulate the data inside the streams. The other nice thing is that there are pure functions. I will talk about pure functions a bit later, but let's skip to the operators, and I will show you that they are really similar to the Lodash or what you see in the arrays. You have the simple map operator. So as you see, you have the stream of the 3 numbers. You just map it and multiply it by 10, and you get the new stream of the numbers multiplied by 10. Going further, you have the scan operator. The scan operator works like the reduce operator on the array. It takes the stream, but it sums up the values from the whole stream. So for example, at the end of the stream, as you see, you have values from 1 to 5. We'll get the 15 on the end of the stream, because it will be the sum of all values from the previous stream. And last but not least, like in the Lodash, you can still use the merge, take 2 streams, like 2 arrays in the Lodash, and merge it to 1 stream of the time. So it's nothing new to see, but I think that more to say is about how to use it and why pure functions are operators and what is good with that. Do you know what pure function is? OK, so I should skip this slide. So I will just say it quickly. The pure function is the function with no side effects. So for the same input function takes, they will always return the same output. So like a quick heads up. I wanted to see the time, but OK. What for I'm using the observables and RxJS outside the Angular, because every day I'm working with Angular. And I really take this idea of NGRX and the FX into the outside applications where I'm only using the streams and not the big framework. The really nice thing is that you have the async operations on the left. Then from these async operations, you can take multiple streams and process them. Yeah, you can manipulate the data, connect the streams. And the good thing that every of these operator is the pure function. You can easily take this operator and use it in another stream. It's like a good pattern that is it must be coded like at the beginning, and you can easily manipulate of the operators and don't care about the dependencies. And what I'm using that for? That I really separate the view layer of the application, that everything is rendered. It only takes the data. I called it data-based view, maybe. But it's really nice because you do not care. It's really nice because when you're debugging the data pipeline, you see, OK, I have bad view. It's rendered in bad way. You always have to go like backward to the stream, and you see where the data is wrong or which operators was written wrongly. So going next, with the new version of the RxJS, it's I think 6 right now. They come with the pipe operator. Why did you do that? Because previously, when you were using RxJS, you want to use only the four operators. You have to include whole library. But we are still fighting that our web application should be really small, should not take like a lot of code. So it's not good practice to like import whole library to use only 3 operators. But the same was thinking the Ben Lesh. So they divided all operators to separate modules. So right now, if you you want to use only the 4 operators, you import only the 4 operators, and Webpack tree shaking will remove all unnecessary code from RxJS library. And then you have a really small library having like good practice doing that. OK, so right now we'll talk a bit about thinking reactively, because RxJS is not only library to use, but it's like way of designing the application. And for me, it's like a bit of like puzzles. You see like the big picture, what you want to like end up with on the box of the puzzle, but then you have to go backward and figure out how to connect the other pieces to make this big picture happen. Yeah, it's a bit different in imperative programming because you code from the bottom to the up. in the decorative programming, in the RxJS, you go backward. You design it, you have to know like whole idea, and then figure out how to create the streams working with that. So I will give you the example of drag and drop. We have like simple task. When the mouse goes down on the target, listen to the mouse move on the document until mouse up event. So we start from for the backward way, as I was talking before. And at the beginning, we create from event the observables from every event we have in the task. So mouse down, mouse move, and mouse up. And then getting back to the sentence, we'll listen to the mouse move until mouse up. So it's really one-liner, document mouse move, stream, take until document mouse up. So okay, we have one part already done. Going back to the task, we still need to mouse down on the target. So we just take first operator, observable we had. We just switch map, just change the stream of the event. So now after the mouse down, they will be listening for mouse move, but until the mouse down. So that's in 3 lines you can like code whole drag and drop functionality. So I think it's really nice. And going next, I will talk about a bit about converting the already existing code through imperative or normal way to Rx way. And as you can see, we have a simple operation. Is C equals A plus B, and then we do some calculation. So as we should start thinking backwards, we'll think how to make C the observable. So okay, for the beginning, we'll think, okay, let's say C is an observable, and we subscribe to it with the calculate function, which should be run on the C, as you can see before. And then we have to go back to the A and B and figure out how we should create the observables from A and B and how to connect it to do the same thing like in the imperative way. And as you see, it's like, again, one-liner. We have the stream of A's. We use PIME to combine line tests. So we'll take the latest value from the B and sum it up. And then this value after the sum will go to the subscribe method with the calculate function. So we will like create the observable for everything, and that by refactoring the code. And it's something you can do like for every code in your application, which is where you see the need of using RxJS. You don't have to rewrite whole application at once. It can be like done part by part, because you can create the observable from the promises. Okay, and like with the little sum up, we'll go for so is it worth it? For me, as I'm using the RxJS, I think for 2 years right now, it's worth it because it makes more sense for the promises, as you see. It's worth it when you are using, writing the real-time applications and really working on the streams a lot. If you are writing like small application with like 2 requests, don't bother. You can use the promises. It will not help you with anything. Just you write the reactive functional programming. It feels fancy, but it's not always needed. Another thing is that it's confusing at the beginning. I assure you that when first time some of my friends saw the Angular with the Rx, they're using the promises and creating then from promise they use the RxJS to create the observable, because then they don't really understand how the stream works. So all the thinking from the backward, designing the streams are really, really hard at the beginning, because if you do it wrongly, after 2 months, you will not understand what have you written. And nobody else can like understand it. So it's some process. You have to like fight it at the beginning, but after when you get used to it, it's really, really nice and smooth process to implement. Another thing, I heard that in this previous speech, like everyone is using the Redux. Like everyone here, yeah? Know the Redux and using it? Yeah, okay, awesome. So when I was reading the code of the Redux, I think there is only one mention in the documentation about that Redux already implemented the observable proposal for a new version of the JavaScript. I don't know, it'll be 2017 right now, I think. And right now, you can create the observable from the store and treat it like the stream, like from the beginning. It's nice for me. And then another nice thing that the Redux code is like, I don't know, right now it's about 120 lines of code maybe. And with RxJS, you can implement this Redux in the two-liner. Just as was showing you earlier, the scan method is the same like the reduce on the array. So you have just the subject that takes the next values, so you can put the new values on the subject. You have the reducer who will change your state of the store, and you just write your action dispatcher that will say, OK, just put the next value to this store stream, and you have the whole store implemented. If you are using like a really small application, you don't really need the Redux. You can just use RxJS and don't bother to npm install another libraries. And going further, Angular is based on it. For me, it's really nice to hear because after Ben Lesh took the part in the Angular team, I'm really sure that RxJS will not be dropped, because earlier when Ben Lesh was working on the Netflix, it was only developed mostly by him. There was a lot of community work, but it was the project mainly developed by the Ben Lesh. So I was a bit concerned if I start working the big project with that, it will not like be skipped after 1 year or 2 years. But right now, when you have all async operations in the Angular based on it, I'm really sure it's really confident that using the RxJS in the big project will be really simple and will not be dropped. And at least, I think, but not last, again, there is rocking the WebSockets. Why I really like with the WebSockets? Because when I show you the difference between promises and observables, there was one word that's really important for me, that promise can be executed only once. It's different with observables, because when you have the error on the observable, you can retrieve one. So for example, you have the connection to the socket.io with the web application, and in some point, the user lost all the internet connection, and the connection is dropped. With promise, you have to figure it out, create a new promise, and then you reuse it. In the RxJS, you can just retrieve on the error and reconnect automatically. User will not lose any experience in the application, and it will be really smooth. After they get the data, it will be connected again. And another thing is really nice, that after it's not connected, you can still scan all the actions the user is doing. So after the reconnection, you can take all data from the stream who was done without the connection to socket.io and just stream it to the socket.io, and you have no problem with the breaking internet, of the better experience of the application. And the great sentence, again, from the Ben Lesh: do not Rx everything. I saw this application, Cycle.js, I think, and it was based on reactive streams and reactive programming. And I will assure you, if you write everything in RxJS because that's the only you like it and it's fun to write it, I assure you that after 1 year, it won't be readable. It's really good tool to use, but if you have to use it wisely, like every framework, and think about if I really need it. The same with Angular, if I really need it, and if I need it and I see opportunity to make application better, just use it. Yeah, the questions?
Does anyone have any questions for Łukasz Stankiewicz? Okay, we do have one good one over here.
Hi, great talk. So the question is about unit testing. How do you find the tools for the quality of the tools?
There are Rx variables, I think. The code is the framework designed for testing the RxJS. And there is, I should get in the presentation, but it's really fun because you test the stream like a string. You write the X, the dash, and another stream, and you are searching for the output. So there is ready-to-use solution to test RxJS and the streams.
Okay, cool. So you didn't have any issues with that kind of testing because because those are streams, the testing would be partially asynchronous, right? So normally, you don't get the output right away. So
it decided this testing framework. Yeah, I'm doing this with Angular, and there is never problem with testing the observables. It's really simple, and it's like working out of the box.
Cool, thanks.
Other questions? Oh, in the front. E długą stronę. Masz to? Okay.
Do you know when we can expect like observables built in the browser?
Yeah, as I told you, there is still the proposal. I think it's MK 217 going to be next. You know how it is with the browsers. They are telling that we'll implement this. Then there are this, like in the new version of the JavaScript, they will like wait 1 month for the Chrome to implement it, 3 months to Edge to implement it. Then you will wait a few months more to, for the Safari. You will wait like 3 years to implement it, or it will never happen. But there is like the polyfills for that, or you can just use RxJS and don't bother about the polyfills.
Anybody else? More questions for Łukasz? Going once, going twice. It's like, no. Łukasz, thank you very, very much for your presentation.
Thank you very much,
Fantastic.
too.